from Taiwan. Came to Cali, made a family in the USA. Little kid named Jeremy, father taught him shooting hoops at the YMCA. Man, that boy could play. They told him, you're not cut out for the game. But Jeremy kept on going, now he's going all the way. You never seen nothing like a mighty Lin. All he ever does is win. Don't let him get the ball or you're going down. You better get ready for the mighty Lin. You're gonna slash and drive and dive and spin. If you still don't know who I'm talking about, pretty soon you will when the mighty Lin comes to town. Captain of his high school team, voted Northern California Player of the Year.
It is a dream come true.
Made it to the Ivy League, shattered every single record in his Harvard career. The boy knows no fear. They told him, you better get your MBA. Now he's starting for the New York Knicks and lighting up the NBA. You never seen nothing like a mighty Lin. All he ever does is win. Don't let him get the ball or you're going down. You better get ready for the mighty Lin. You're gonna slash and drive and dive and spin. If you still don't know who I'm talking about, pretty soon you will when the mighty Lin comes to town.
有一些非常有趣的那种让我们感动的事情，特别是对台湾的人。那我们这样的目的是希望大家等一下在跟教练沟通的时候，可以真的去问一些你真的想要问的问题。那因为我们还蛮希望，我看一下网络报名的伙伴，你们有时候有一些问的问题，还蛮就是在找人生的方向，或者是说，其实你希望透过林书豪，你能够回馈给自己，在你自己的一些生命当中，或者是你希望有出路，或者是其实这种问题，其实我们今天运气很好，因为如果大家有一点点知道的话，不一定每个高中教练都可以做这么深度的一个对话，因为教篮球有时候是一个可能是一个技术性的东西，可是他是一个高中教练，然后他刚好是对青少年，就是人在容易蜕变的那个时候，在找人生方向、冲突的时候、情绪管理的时候，那P 的教练参与的过程。重点是他本身其实是蛮内涵的人，所以他可以，如果重点是你要问那个问题，我们等一下其实有跟 P 的沟通过，就是把他的一些，他跟林书豪过去的一些感动的记忆、美好的回忆，甚至过去、现在、未来的一些，他们还会继续逐梦的一些事情，他可以分享，这没有问题。可是今天大老远，大家大老远从非常远的地方，来到这个西安不是一个非常好找的地方，我们还是到了，所以我还是希望说把一些主导权交到你们身上，我们把一些 Q&A 的时间给你们，那你们有，请你们我鼓励你们用力问问题，有奖，有问题就有奖品，好不好？这样够吗？可以了，就这样子。那我们现在用热烈掌声来欢迎我们 Peter， 我们要掌声大声一点 ，Peter 表出来，我们用 Please welcome。
我不知道啊，那边有一只喇叭，
Well, hello. Nice to see you all. Thanks for coming. Well, I have a lot to talk about. I know I have some questions here that you'd like answers to. You just saw a video there of my former star player. Yeah, so I'd like to talk about the whole experience with Jeremy and how he basically got to where he is today. Just not sure if I should start at the beginning. It's kind of a long story. So.
教练非常感谢各位到这边，那也非常开心。刚才大家也看影片，他是对于 Jeremy 有更多的了解。那么教练他今天呢会针对 件历史发生的故事呢，听得有更深一步的认识。
Okay, well, there are some questions here relating to Jeremy that I have been asked. The first one is about leadership. And the question is, how can I be a good leader of the my basketball team if I'm not the best player?
各位这边呢有收到各位朋友在网站上面先提出来问，那么首先他先回答是说，有人提出来，如果呢我在球队里并不是最优秀的佼佼者，我应该要怎么样去管理我的球员，让这个球队的赢？
My answer to that one is there's no question that in any group, the leadership is going to be much stronger and more effective if the person that's doing it is the best in that particular group. There's no question.
当然哦，在一个球队里面，成为一个能够有一个良好的领导能力，当然在球队里面是最重要的。
But I also feel very strongly that leadership can come from anybody in a group if that person is speaking his or her mind with the idea of what's best for the group is in that person's mind and thoughts.
教练认为呢，其实球队里面的每一个人都可以是领导者，只要呢你能够靠着自己的意志，而且呢诚心的是为这整个球队来着想，并且真诚的把你的想法说出来，你就是一个很有能力的领导者。
I think any group, when they start any endeavor, the first thing that they need to do is talk about what their purpose is and what their goals are. And that's what we did with our basketball teams. And once you do that and then you decide exactly what steps that group needs to take to achieve those goals.
教练呢，他其实以他自己为例哦，他在管理球队的时候呢，会一开始先跟各位讨论我们要共同达到的目标是什么，并且呢一步接着一步的去设定我们要进步的每一次的进程。
And then you make some very clear agreements as a group or a team and decide exactly what you can agree on that you all are willing to do, commit to achieve that group goal.
那再来呢，当我们确定每一个阶段要进入到什么样子的时候呢，我们会开始跟每一个球员参与者来共同订立一个类似像合约这样子的一个内容。当这个内容一旦确定之后呢，大家都会全力的去把它达成。
So I think that leadership comes in whenever the group starts to diverge from their set of agreements, and anybody that sees that the group is not doing what it's set out to do and decides to say something about it to make sure they get back on track and start doing following through on the commitments that they've made together. That's leadership.
个人认为领导力哦，其实就是当一个团体，他们在订定共同目标之后，当这个目标开始动摇之后，这样子有一领导特质的人，他会站起来跟大家说，我们重申我们的目标是什么，并且再一次的领导整个团队往同一个方向前进，这就是他所谓的领导。
And where it gets difficult or where leadership really is special is when the person is willing to do it regardless of the other group members' feelings. And they're not worried about hurting someone's feelings because they know what they're saying is exactly what the group has agreed that they're going to do. And so leadership leadership sometimes isn't easy because you have to risk, people maybe not liking you.
所以他提到，其实一个特别的一个 stand out 的领导者，他是怎么样子的？他是可以去直说他自己看到的东西。当他看到有偏颇的时候，他可以不管，他可以去尽量的去不要去在意到旁人的任何情绪，他可以引领着大家往某一个方向去前进，并且告诉他这样才是对的错，当初所做的决定。
And the thing about Jeremy is, from when I first met him, leadership has always been his best and strongest quality. And
当教练他第一次认识 Jeremy 的时候，当然毫无疑问的，篮球是他最强、最厉害的专长。
And last year on the Knicks, being the lowest paid player and only being in his second year and having other all-stars there on the team, we weren't really able to see his leadership ability.
去年当 Jeremy 在特队的时候，应该是做自己脸书，之后比较简单提掉。Jeremy 他所经历的其实是在队上最低的薪资，而且呢，其实球队上面又面临到非常多的新球员，所以这个时候其实他并没有机会去展现出他的领导力。
He definitely tried some things. He had some meetings behind the scenes trying to talk to different players and trying to get them to get back on track and start upholding the team's agreements. But again, lowest paid player, only in his second year, he just didn't feel that he carried a lot of weight.
当然，在这样子的团队里面 ，Jeremy 他还是试图的去跟他的队友去沟通，他要怎么共同来继续照顾我们当初的目标一起去走，达到最好的效果。但是呢，身为一个在那时候队上2级的球员，然后薪资最低的球员，他不觉得他那时候有这样子的分量可以说这样子。
And that's one of the things I'm most excited to watch now with the Houston Rockets, because now he's one of the highest paid players. He's established himself as an NBA player, and now we will see his leadership ability because he is definitely somebody that doesn't care if what he says upsets you or hurts your feelings. He is going to speak his mind. He is going to say exactly what he sees.
但是他非常开心哦，看到Jeremy 他现在在休斯顿火箭队这样子的一个新的环境，他觉得因为 Jeremy 当然到那边，他会成为一个高薪球员其中之一嘛。那再来就是说他在他那边可以有获得的更好的位置去领导这个团队，然后他也可以更自在的去把他心里面的他意念里面可以让球队或者说整个团体一起定定的方向确定之后，他可以更自由意志把他的心智说出来。
So I do have a list of questions here, and the first one was leadership, and those are basically my thoughts on leadership. I was going to move on unless there's more questions.
OK，那这目前为止呢是教练他对于领导力 leadership 的一个看法和说法。那不知道现场各位有没有什么问题？希望大家提出来。如果没有的话，我们可以接到下一个阶段。
So the next question that I've been asked is, being a coach, what is the secret to managing a team?
第二个就是说，有人问教练说，身为一个教练哦，他是什么样子的秘诀可以让他去好好的带球队？
I have many thoughts on that question. One of the first ones is different.
就大家已经了解，大家常听到对教练抱怨就是这个教练不公平啊，对每个人态度都不一样。
And in one sense, there's a couple different ways you can look at that, but in my opinion is, yeah, that's right. As a coach, I do treat everybody differently because everybody's different. And everybody has their own personalities, everybody has their own needs, wants. So I think, talk about managing a team, I think it's really all about developing relationships with everybody on the team and treating them as an individual.
现在他提到，当然，就是身为一个教练，他应该做的其实就是看到每一个球员他的专长在哪里，然后呢，去帮助他把他的特长发挥出来，并且在这个球队里面建立一个彼此之间建立良好的关系。
And there's one very cliche phrase in English. I don't know how it translates, but it really is true. And the saying is, your players are going to never care how much you know until they know how much you care. And what that means to me is, a coach might have all the knowledge and know about a sport and know the right way to play a particular game, but his players or her players don't care about that if they don't feel that the coach cares about them as a person.
所以他提到，就是身为一个教练，他有这样的感觉，就是说，你的球员有时候其实不会那么去在乎说你到底知道不知道，直到让他深刻的感觉到说你是真的为他好，是真正在帮助他，就是他才会感觉到这样子。
So to answer the question about how to manage a team, basically having individual relationships with the players and figuring out, asking from them what they want to get out of the season, what their goals are, and then basically working with them to meet those goals throughout the particular season.
OK， 教练他提到，其实他觉得跟他的球员相处方式，其实是跟他一起讨论出他所要努力的目标是什么，然后一起跟他讨论，一起陪伴他成长，达到这个目标。
So, managing a team, there's always going to be two goals going on at all times, the team goals and the individual goals. And you're always trying to work both of those at the same time, and that's definitely part of the challenge of being the leader of a group, is you're always trying to keep the team's goals in mind, but also the individual goals. And really, as far as motivating the team, what I always used was individual conversations with players and always constantly reminding them of goals that they told me that they wanted to attain that particular season. Not me putting it on them, but them letting me know why they were coming 3 hours a day, 6 days a week, what they wanted to get out of it, and then just constantly reminding them, hey, this is where you want to go, this is what you said you're willing to do, and just try to remind them of what their goals are. Because a lot of times players get frustrated and all they see are the obstacles in their way, rather than basically keeping their mind and their eye on the goal where they're trying to get to.
就像他说到，其实，在身为一个教练，怎么样子经营球队跟球员，其实就是要随时有2个目标在同时进行，一个是球队的共同目标，第二个是每个球员他个人的想要成长的目标。当然，同时要运作的话是有难度的，但是他觉得这是重要的。那么再来就是说，身 为一个教练跟球员的经营他的发展的生涯的方式，其实就是个别的跟他讨论他想要成长的范围跟目标是什么，而且不断的提醒他，不断的告诉他说，这个是你要走的路，继续坚持下去，帮助他。因为教练他提到说，其实有时候当球员会感到沮丧或挫折的时候，其实是因为他眼前只看到他所面临的困难，而他忘记了他之前所设定的目标。于是教练都会时常的跟他的球员不断的提醒他的目标在哪里。
Okay, well those are basically my thoughts on managing a team. Basically getting it, again, just to review, getting the group together, making it, figuring out what our goals are, why we are getting together, what we're trying to get accomplished, and then deciding what steps need to be taken by the group to attain that goal, and then everybody making commitments, making clear agreements on what we're committed to doing to get to where we decided we want to go. So that's basically the process that has worked for me.
我们这边做一个总结哦，其实经营一个球队最主要一开始就是说，大家先聚集在一起，我们共同设定一个要努力的目标。而且我们会一起思考，为什么我们要在这边？我们为什么要达成这样的目标？那再来就是说，目标确定之后，我们会一步一步的开始设定，你要达成目标之前所要做的步骤。步骤设定之后呢，我们开始有一个协同，每一个所有的球队每一个球员都能够认同我们所要有的规范，大家都能够尽力的去遵守它。然后之后呢，我们会不断的提醒自己，你的目标在哪边，让你持续的往前进。
And I just cannot emphasize enough, in my opinion, the importance of setting goals, no matter what you're doing, whether it's your relationship with your girlfriend or boyfriend, what is the purpose of our relationship, what goals do we have, whether it's you starting a new class in school, I'm in math class, what are my goals in this math class? I think whatever activity or endeavor a person does, you really need to start with goals so you have something to work toward.
你现在提到一点非常重要啊，就是说我们在做任何事，在你人生当中不管遇到任何事，你都应该为自己设一个目标。小至可能男女之间的关系啊，或者是说你的新学期的开始，你要定什么目标？因为这个目标之所以重要，在于说它可以引领着你一步一步的往这个目标前进，它是一个你前进可以追逐的动力。
Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next question. And the next question is, comparing Jeremy Lin High School with Jeremy Lin when Sanity was going on, what's the difference between the two Jeremy Lins and what is common? What's the commonalities?
那我们接下来的问题就要进入到说，林书豪他在成名之前跟成名之后，他有什么共通点，或者是说有什么相异之处呢？
Jeremy Lin, as a young person, was very, very introverted. He always just kept to himself. You say, hi to him, and maybe you get kind of a very introverted, not outgoing at all.
虽然说 Jeremy 其实在很小的时候，他是非常内向的一个孩子。
He always seemed like he had the weight of the world on his shoulders. So even when he was playing basketball, he'd make a great play. He would make an unbelievable pass or shot, and then he would just turn and go down the floor and just no expressions, no emotion.
OK， 就是说林书豪好像是他很内向，他好像整个世界都在他的肩膀，在他整个身体里面这样子一个整个封闭起来的感觉。那即便是他在
and maybe it's kind of funny, but I don't know, for me, going through it, I would constantly ask myself, does he really like this game? Is he having fun? Does he realize, how good he is? Does he care? Because it was just almost like work, or just, I don't know, it was really interesting how little emotion he showed.
说到，就是有时候教练甚至怀疑林书豪在场上是不是真的打得很开心，他真的觉得他真的很享受这个比赛的过程啊，他喜欢篮球啊。那么，所以教练他真的觉得林书豪这时候的林书豪真的是比较鲜少的去表达他自己的情绪。
So my first thought when I read this question is, when I saw him play for the New York Knicks, and obviously watched, every second, I literally was watching and saying to myself, I've never seen him so happy. I've never seen him so much himself, so comfortable. It was like a completely different person.
教练他非常印象深刻，他觉得当他在看 Jeremy 在 Knicks 打球的时候，他完全没有想到，他看到的是一个非常非常外放、非常热爱篮球，然后完全在场上展现他自己对篮球热爱的一个篮球员。他觉得对他来说，他真的是觉得怎么跟之前不太一样，但是他非常的为他开心，看到这样子的林书豪。
And the best way that makes sense to me, the best way I can describe it, is that when I saw him playing for the Knicks and saw his emotion and his reaction, the best way I can explain it is just there's somebody who's finally comfortable in his own skin and just is totally being who he is.
教练觉得可以看到这样子林书豪，他的解释，他觉得是因为林书豪他真正的在场上活出自我，他的确在场上真正的活出他真正的自我。
And I definitely think that as people we can all relate to that. I mean, there are situations that we're in when we're uncomfortable, and then there's situations when we're just totally comfortable, and totally ourselves, and just able to be exactly who we want to be without any worry about how we're acting. My point is that what I just described, how Jeremy was being, I think we can all relate to that. There are situations in all of our lives that we're in when we're totally comfortable and just able to be ourselves and not have any inhibitions. And then there are other situations when we're not totally comfortable and we're very conscious about how we're acting.
但是说用林书豪的故事来说，其实我们在日常生活当中也常常会有这样子的状况，就是处于你自己非常焦虑，然后不自在，感到不知所措的这样子的一个环境。
So what I think is extremely fascinating is that you would expect those two Jeremy Lins that I just described to be the exact opposite. You would expect him in high school, he's with his friends, he's with people he grew up with, that there is where he'd be totally himself, and then being with the New York Knicks, with millions of people watching him, that's where you'd think he'd be nervous and a little bit hesitant. So you'd expect really a normal person would be the exact opposite.
那提到其实用林书豪这个故事来看，其实你要看到的我们应该去想的是说，奇怪，他在高中的时候，他
in my opinion, what really hit me watching the whole insanity was, you know, I always got the constant question, well, geez, Jeremy's going through a whole lot right now. How's he handling it? Was he okay? There's a lot going on. And what I would answer, just from knowing him, is he's kind of been preparing for this his whole life. His mother could have told you he was going to do this when he was 10. It's actually true. To me, it's like, no. He totally expects it. He's wondering why it didn't happen in his rookie year with the Warriors. He's like, why did I have to wait 2 years for this to happen? So he expected this to happen. He has an incredible amount of confidence in himself, and he's definitely prepared for this his whole life.
教练的观点来说，当他看到林书豪来攻这一段期间呢，他其实不是为他担心，他担心说，这样子一个孩子突然面临到这么大的一个insanity疯狂状况，他能不能够 handle 这样子的状况？但是呢，教练用另外一个角度来切入，其实呢，也许另外一个角度来看，其实林书豪他早就已经准备好这一切了。当他开始打篮球，他妈妈也许就给他一直鼓励着他，告诉他总有一天他会成功，他会在场上受到这么多人的欢迎，看他打球。所以教练觉得林书豪也早就已经为这一刻准备好了。
So that's basically what the difference is between Jeremy in high school. You know, I would say that's one of the biggest differences. Obviously, the other difference is that in high school he started 5'3", 125 pounds, and now he's 6'3", 210 pounds.
那另外一个不同处，当然就是说林书豪他入学的时候160公分这样子的身高，跟现在他已经长到了193公分左右这样子的指的是体型上面的巨大的差异。
So he did not gain 80 pounds just by getting taller. When he got to Harvard, the coach at Harvard said to him, "You are, without a doubt, the weakest athlete I've ever seen."
教练他说到，其实当林书豪进入哈佛的时候啊，他曾经被哈佛教练说到，你这样的身材，真的是我见过最瘦过的篮球员。
Not a very nice guy. So he didn't lift weights in high school because he didn't need to be successful. He was able to be successful on his natural ability, his natural talent, seeing the game, decisions. But when he got to Harvard, he realized to be successful, he was going to need to lift weights. So now, for the last 6 years, he's put on 50 pounds of muscle from just lifting weights every day.
教练讲，其实，在高中的时候，林书豪其实光靠他自己本身对篮球的本能跟天分，其实就可以拉平整个场地了，整个篮球场。可是呢，当他进入哈佛的时候，教练也跟他讲说，你身材这么瘦弱，于是他真的感觉到他必须要去增加他自己的体重，去能够跟人家场上跟人家抗衡。于是呢，在这近6年来，他增加了大概大概25公斤左右的重量。
And that really is the key part of his success, is not that he was a great basketball player when he was 15 years old and we all said, oh, Jeremy's really good, he's going to be in the NBA one day. That's not what we were thinking. I went and watched a Taiwanese high school team play this week, and if Jeremy was in that group at 15 years old, he would not stand out at all. There were some very good players there.
虽然他提到，其实我们应该要知道，说林书豪他成功的关键，并不是就是因为他就是这么 那么教练有提到，其实在15岁的时候，我们那时候并不会就是看出说你组好了之后就可以去打 NBA 这样子的，就不会在那时候看到这样子的未来。那教练其实有跟因为这周教练有去看台湾的高中球赛，那么他其实觉得台湾的高中球赛的水准其实不输给就是他所带的球队，他觉得甚至把林书豪放在那个球队里面，我们甚至不会看到林书豪在哪里。
So his story is that every time he got to a new level, he didn't succeed right away, but because he's so smart and he's so ambitious that he just figured out exactly what he needed to do to be successful.
当林书豪每到一个新的阶段的时候，其实他并不是立刻就可以成为一个成功者，立刻就可以达到那个叫做最完美的状态。那他所成功的因素其实是在于说他很聪明，而且他知道他必须要去加强自己什么部分，让他可以达到这样子的高峰，这样成功的状态。
And he knows that too. After his first year in high school in varsity, he did okay, but didn't have a great year. His second year, he did very well. And the same thing in Harvard, his freshman year, he wasn't great, didn't have a great year, but his second year, he did very well. So after his rookie season with the Warriors, we had lunch one day, and he said, "Here we go, it's my second year, you'll see, this is where I'm going to do very well." I don't think he actually knew exactly how well, but he definitely had confidence that he was going to do very well in his second year because he had a year to figure it out.
在成绩我们上面讲，教练他以林书豪高中、大学阶段为例，在林书豪高中第一年在校队的时候表现也是平平，但第二年他非常的优秀。哈佛第一年刚进入学的时候也是还好，但是第二年的时候非常的精彩。所以当林书豪他第一年在 NBA 菜鸟时期，在济州勇士队表现的不怎么出色的时候呢，那个季节结束之后，他跟教练有一个参叙，然后他跟教练说，教练，我们第一季结束了，我们第二季就要上场，等着看。但是教练他当然说了，那时候他也开玩笑说到，也许那时候林书豪也没有想到他会现在变成全世界疯狂的这样一个人物。
So the question is, what does he have in common? Well, basically, he plays the exact same way now in the NBA as he did in high school. It's me just watching a bigger version of his high school play. There really aren't a whole lot of differences.
那成名前跟成名后，林书豪共同点其实就在于他球的打法，跟高中的时候其实是差不多的。以教练看法来说，其实只是一个放大版的一个林书豪打球方式放在 NBA 上。
The thing that I think that really speaks to me, what's really shocking about it is his success really says a lot about the NBA and how the game is played in the NBA and how players make it to the NBA. Most of the players that are in the NBA are there because they're big, strong, and they can jump.
教练说，其实他看到林书豪进入 NBA 这样子的一个故事哦，其实他看到的是说 NBA 它里面的人的特质是什么，就是高壮，然后可以跳很高。他觉得这是教练从他观察到 NBA 所要的球员的标准。
And that obviously is not Jeremy's strength. He's a good athlete, but that's not why he's in the NBA. He's in the NBA because he sees the game, he feels the game, he knows exactly what needs to be done, what should be done, every play, offense, defense, it's just in him. And that's why he's so successful. But the thing that's shocking to me or surprising to me is his strengths are so unique. There just aren't that many players that have his feel, his abilities. Chris Paul, Steve Nash, Jason Kidd. Yes, there are players, but it's a very, very small group.
刚刚提到，其实当然就是陈杰刚刚所说，林书豪进入 NBA 当然不是因为他的身高、他跳跃的高度，而是因为他特殊的篮球直觉感。他可以在球场上面看到整个球场的状况，他知道每一球应该要怎么打，他知道应该要怎么样跟队友合作才能够让这场球赢。那么再来就是说，林书豪教练觉得林书豪在 NBA 里面非常特别的地方就在于说，他对于篮球的直觉让他能够 stand out。那这样子的直觉其实是非常少球员有的啦，像是 Steve Nash、Chris Paul、
Jason Kidd.
like that.
They all have a similar feel. So that is, what makes Jeremy so special, and that's why I like what his coach, Mike D'Antoni, said right in the middle of insanity, after he had 2 or 3 good games, and everyone's like, well, it can't last. It's just got lucky a couple games, and the coach sat there and he said, well, he knows how to play the game, and he makes great decisions when he has the ball. I really don't know how that's not going to last. I don't know why he can't just keep doing that game after game. And my thing is, not only is it going to last, but he's just going to keep figuring it out more and more. So he's just going to keep getting better and better. So not only is it going to last, we're in for quite a ride.
教练提到，其实当林书豪他造成一个 insanity 旋风区的时候呢，其实有很多人会质疑他，会说，哎，你这个可能你这样子的赢球可能不持久。但是呢，其实就像是说那时候 Knicks 的教练丹东尼他在讨论里面有说到，就是说，其实林书豪他真的是很厉害，是在于说他可以知道球的关键在哪，比赛的关键在哪，他非常聪明的看到整个球场的状况，因此呢，他觉得这样子的状况其实绝对是可以延续的。那当然，以教练的观点来说的话，林书豪这方面能力当然还是肯定的。
So one more thing about these questions here. One asks about Jeremy and him making mistakes and how he handled making mistakes and how I would help him with this frustration with mistakes. And Jeremy has a lot of pride, and he's not someone that I could, like I said, everybody is an individual. You have to treat everybody as an individual. There are certain players, when they don't do something very easy, very comfortable, hey, Billy, you need to do this, this, and this. Hey, Johnny, you can't do that. With Jeremy, I would always do things one-on-one and just take him in a room and watch video with him and just show him what he was doing, where things didn't go right, and then he would figure it out for himself. Okay, this is what I need to do. So that's basically how I handled Jeremy and teaching Jeremy and helping him figure things out. I knew he would figure it out. It's not something that I needed to tell him twice. Just show him what happened on video and let him figure it out for himself.
教练跟 Jeremy 他相处的方式，或者是说他帮助 Jeremy 在球场上、球技上更精进的方式，其实就是分别的带开到一个小房间里面然后他们一起来看比赛的比赛，然后共同的讨论，看出来说哪个地方可以加强，哪个地方可以做得更好。那么其实这样子的表达，其实就是教练觉得林书豪其实他是一个自己知道自己应该要做什么的球员，所以他不需要告诉他太多。
And there's one other thing. The question here is, what makes Jeremy Lin stand out from other students? And to me, I have to answer that because there is something about his personality that, right from the beginning, was very, very unique and really had a very large effect on me.
我们现在来谈就是说林书豪他是什么样子的特质让他与众不同？那么教练提到，其实他这样子的特质是非常特殊的，甚至呢也影响到教练。
And what makes him very different from all the other kids that I've ever coached is that the average kid, the normal kid, always lives a little bit in denial, not in reality. Kind of like they wouldn't play that well, but they after the game, played all right, you know, I played all right, I missed a couple shots, but I did okay. And as a coach, I'd be like, with Jeremy, it was literally always the other way. It was, I always had to pick him up. It was like, he'd play an unbelievable game, but he'd remember his 2 turnovers in the second quarter, and that's all he talked about.
刚才提到，其实他发现林书豪跟其他孩子不一样的地方在于说，有些小孩他其实有时候会是活在自己的世界当中嘛，可能不愿意这么真实的去面对他自己的问题。可是林书豪反而是相反，他整场球赛打得很好，打得非常棒，但是他永远记得他可能在某一节啊有个小失误啊，然后一直提醒，这个反而是教练需要帮助他开导他。
And there's one person I blame, his mother.
当然，教练提到了有一个人啊，他必须要特别提出来，就是林书豪自己。
So we need to open it up to questions. These are the questions that I was supposed to answer, and now, if there's any questions that you'd like to ask about anything, we can have a question and answer.
各位有什么问题想要提出来吗？
Everyone has the advantage of learning, but what is the disadvantage? And did you
Yes, so obviously we're talking about the positives, and the question is, you know, was he always a great guy? And the answer is actually no. That's one of the things I'm most proud of, is how he's matured as a person. Like I said, when he was younger, he was very into himself and very introverted. It was just Jeremy, Jeremy, Jeremy. What does Jeremy need? What does Jeremy want? And it was just always about himself. And that kind of went with his game too. It was about Jeremy, I need to shoot, I need to score. And so one of my most constant conversations with him was trying to get him to understand that his strongest ability is his leadership and his ability to help others, and trying to get him to basically realize his #1 strength. But as a kid, he was just all about Jeremy needing to score.
当然，林书豪在年轻的时候也曾经就是一度非常的执着于投篮跟得分这件事情。那么当然，这个也不是教练时常在跟他沟通的，因为他想告诉林书豪的是说，他最强的优势其实是在于领导力，在于帮助你的队友得分，在于整个团队的协助跟领导方面。那这个是教练知道的。
And along those lines, you know, again, it might seem like a little thing, but it's been in the papers and it got a lot of press during the Insanity, and that is that So insanity kind of started on February 4th, Saturday, in the Nets game, and my birthday is a week later, 8 days later, February 12th. And Jeremy sent me a text, "Hey, happy birthday, coach." And I was just blown away. But again, because it's such a sign of his maturation that he would be thinking about others during his time, he wasn't always like that.
刚刚提到了一个Insanity 开始的时间是2月4号嘛，那教练的生日是8天之后。那时候我们在报章媒体上面有看到说，林书豪那时候寄了一个简讯给教练，跟他说生日快乐。那当然教练那时候非常的感动，因为他看到了这时候林书豪是非常的成熟的，从他过去的这样子一路过来，他这时候已经成长成熟了，懂得去照顾其他旁边人的心。
The other thing, I didn't understand your question at first, but my first answer to your question when you said, you know, there's so many positive about Jeremy, what's the downside? I was thinking more you were talking about his life right now, and oh, there's so many positives, but really, if you're Jeremy, you know, he's a person that does not like being in public, doesn't like talking to groups, so now, there's a lot of downside to Jeremy, because he doesn't like doing this stuff at all.
OK， 这是另外一个我们回答的一个问题了，就是说，在生活部分，林书豪有什么比较不习惯的部分？其实当然就是说，他不习惯在公众场合说话，他也不习惯在人群当中这样的社交，所以教练相信，其实现在对他来说是一个非常大的考验。
Any other questions?
要 NBA 在录取球员的时候，因为他们会看你说黄种，没有去观察到他的就是他有很好的领袖的领导能力，跟他很有好的助攻能力。可是，在一开始的时候，在考验的时候，并不会显示出这些特质。那要怎么去看出一个人的特质？那我觉得 NBA 这方面是不是要做新的改进，或者是在遇到一个新的球员的时候，要从哪方面去看这个有没有好的切入？
Well, it wasn't just the NBA that missed. I mean, you remember coming out of high school, it was the same situation. You know, he had this ability, but no colleges wanted him. So the fact of the matter is, in sports, in athletics, the way it works is by things that are totally definitive, black and white, clear to the eye. Is he big? Is he strong? Can he jump? Can he shoot? That's just how it is. So, you know, Jeremy's not the first athlete to have this happen. I mean, there's Tom Brady, there's Joe Montana, there's athletes in every sport. There are things that are immeasurable, and you just are never going to find out until you see the person in the situation and to see how they perform. So I don't think anything's going to change.
刚刚提到，其实当然林书豪并不是第一次在 NBA 就被忽略到看到他自己领导能力的部分。当然，他在进入大学之前，他也曾经被许多学校拒绝过嘛。那么其实因为其实，在体育的这个标准上面，当然大家最直接看、最简单的看法就是说，你的身高、你的体重、你的跳多高这些基本的能力。所以教练觉得，但是 当然不是说你的领导能力，还是得必须再看到你本人在篮球场上的表现才能够分出胜负，才能够看出你到底有多少啦。那么教练觉得说，其实他觉得可能这样子的一个衡量标准，高快壮，短时间内也许没有办法有什么多大的改变。
Teddy just wants a book. Teddy.
我今天问这个问题的第一个目的，我很想知道是读书。那我知道你来台湾1个礼拜，我想你表示一下你对台湾的观感，因为我知道你第一次访问台湾。
There are many very fine McDonald's. I just wrote Shirley Lin an email right before I came here. And yes, I'm always trying to get her to like me and not be mad at me. But I did say, I used to live in Denmark, in Copenhagen for 6 years. I've traveled around the world, Australia, Singapore, Beijing, Indonesia, and I've never met a more respectful, nicer people than Taiwanese people. It's absolutely blows me away.
教练他提到，当然他第一次来到亚洲，他提到他刚刚去过了丹麦呀、比利时呀、新加坡、北京这些城市。那他对台湾，甚至台北这个城市最深的印象就是说，特别这里的人非常的彬彬有礼，非常的有礼貌，非常的温和，非常的友善。
It's funny, I've been coaching for 25 years. And I've coached at the high school level, and I coached in Denmark at the pro level, and I coached college, 4-year college, 2-year college. And having the experiences that I've had in coaching, to me, at the end of the day, the most important thing, yes, you need some talent. But really, to me, the amount of coaching I've done, what matters to me more than anything else is coach ability, attitude and coachability. You know, being someone who I think is a good coach and knows the game and knows how to coach, if I can just get a group that's going to listen and do what I want them to do, I think we're going to do well. So because of that, the idea of coaching a Taiwanese team definitely appeals to me.
刚刚提到以他多年来的这样教练的经验，大概已经有24年左右了。他说到，其实一个好的他能够指导球队的环境，其实是在于指导一群能够懂得教练所说的话，能够遵从教练的指导，这样子的球员，对他来说是最棒的一个合作机会。那么他回忆到这次来到台湾教篮球以后，对他来说就是这样子如此绝佳的机会。
And again, to follow up on that, because again, not to get too much into basketball, but my biggest frustration in coaching is dealing with players that don't live in reality. And what I mean is, players that can't shoot, they keep shooting. Or keep dribbling that they can't dribble. And I've always said this to my teams, I really don't care what you can do and what you can't do. Just do what you can do and don't do what you can't do. And to get players to do that, that's all you need to do to be successful. But it's very difficult with the players I coach. I want some Taiwanese players. I think they would do what they can do.
其实你就是在场上发挥你的专长就对了，这样子才能够真正的发挥你的自我。所以他又回到，他觉得说，他应该需要多一点台湾的篮球员来跟他多配合。
And I'm not just trying to make you guys like me, but there's an expression in English that, again, to me makes perfect sense. We're all different. We all have our strengths and weaknesses in life. Some people were meant to play the piano, and some people were meant to carry the piano.
刚刚提到，其实就是说，我们每个人都是很不同哦，那每个人都各有所长。有的人他可能善于的是弹钢琴，有的人他可能专长是在他的肌肉，他可以弹钢琴，是他的地域。
I lost the pen. I can't pick it anymore.
用保时捷那个时间，所以就问这个题这样。
谢谢教练，就是因为你刚刚讲到说，教练24年，他都不知道去，这是带着技术教练。那我想问一下，就是像您说黄总，你的选这种天生领导能是年轻，会有其他的球员想要当控球后卫，可是如果你以一个教练的专业来看，如果这个球员他天生生下来个性比较不太适合当控球后卫，就是不太适合做进攻，可是他会不会跟你讨论说，哎，教练，我想被你训练成这样生下来不是属于的球员，那你会因为不让这个先天的条件去影响球员他们的，会因为他们想要成为哪样的球员，即便你的专业认为他不适合做一些不适合是什么，是不是造成你的自己方面？谢谢。
The way it works in basketball is the season starts on November 1st. So you get the people together and you have them play and you see what they can do. And then you have those abilities and your job as a coach is to make the best team you can given those abilities.
先翻译前段，其实就是说，教练假如说一开始的话，他会先看球员在场上，每个球员在场上的表现，针对他们的专长来组织这样的一个团队，达到这个团队最强这样的一个状态。
So to answer your question, then from March 1st to November 1st, that's the time that people can become point guards, become shooters, become ball handlers. That's when individual players are made, not in the middle of the season, but in the off season. And yes, it's one thing I love to do. It's why I do basketball camps, is because I love developing players' skills. If somebody wants to work on their game, I love to help them.
刚才提到，当然就是说，在球季开始，11月球季开始的时候，可能那时候就没有办法，改变你打的位置。但是呢，当3月到11月这一段子，空闲的时间的时候呢，每个人都可以去发展你自己想要的专长。那么教练他也非常的乐于去培养你自己，所想要的部分。
我想请问一个问题，就身为一个青少年的教练，如何去观察一个孩子，而且激励这个孩子？
Well, like I said, for me, motivating somebody is really just getting them to decide what they want to do and getting them to express it and acknowledge it, what they want to accomplish. And then what I do as a coach is teach them and explain to them exactly what they need to do to get from where they're at now to where they want to go. And I've never, ever said to a player, no, you can't think. You cannot think. If anybody has a dream, anybody has something that, it's not my job to say it's not realistic. It's my job to tell them what they need to do to accomplish that dream. But I'm never going to tell someone that their dreams are unrealistic. I mean, anything's possible.
提到他如何激励青少年，他们的动力当然就是说跟他们谈，一起找出来他想要努力的方向是什么。然后教练的工作就是告诉他，你要往这个方向走，那你应该要做的是什么事情，然后陪伴他一起往这个方向去前进。他绝对不会跟一个孩子说你不可能完成这件事，而是告诉他说我们一起来怎么做来完成这件事。当然，他就说到像 Sandy 这样子，美梦都可以成真的，还有什么不可能？
The losing partner of university like Jeremy teachers or deliver books. By the way, during your time in Taiwan, you have the chance to meet each other.
So the first part was, what did, was what Jeremy say that again? What was it?
You can see that Jeremy teachers or deliver books.
Yeah. I think, I mean, really what I just said, to never give up on your dreams. And really, the other thing about Jeremy that is really different is that coaching as long as I have, and coaching 14, 15-year-olds, a lot of them come to me when they're 14 and 15 and say, okay, coach, I want to play in college. I want to play in the NBA. A lot of them say that. Jeremy never said that. His junior year, I mean, he's 16, 17 years old, and I was having one of my motivational talks with him, and I was like, Jeremy, you know, you could play in college, you could be a college player. And he's like, I don't care about playing in college. And he was 16, 17 years old. He goes, I just want to go to UCLA with my brother Josh. And so really the lesson there with Jeremy is he was always just focused on where he was at. It was never, and that's why I say to a lot of kids in high school, hey, be a good high school player. Just focus on being a good high school player. You know, if you do that, then the other things, the other opportunities will come. But too many kids, right from the start, are, I want to play in college, I want to play. Hey, you need to take care of first things first, and then the other opportunities will come. And I think for me, that's really what Jeremy did. He just took it one step at a time and just focused on the level that he was at.
就是林书豪他最大的特点其实就是说他永远当然对他的梦想永远不放弃。那么再来就是说，他跟其他人不一样的是说，他永远总是专注于他现在所做的事情，他永远总是专注于他现在所做的每一件事情都要把它做到最好，然后等待接下来的机会来临。那么这也是教练说的，他刚刚有举例林书豪可能在16、17岁的时候从来没有想过，也没有跟他夸口说我要去打大学篮球队，我要去 NBA 都没有讲过。但是教练看到的其实是一个认真的、踏实的，在他现在这个高中这个位置所应该有的最好的表现，林书豪把它展现出来。
Well, it's really my relationship with Jeremy. It didn't start well. It's actually a pretty funny story. So he came to my camp as a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, 12-year-old, and he always had so much confidence. And he always was doing the right thing, and kids in my camp, and so not only was I was a coach, I was also a referee. And so I'm out there refereeing the game, and Jeremy was playing, and again, always had major attitude, thought he was the man, and he was getting fouled, and I wasn't calling it. And he just could not believe it. And he just kept getting fouled. He was like, don't you know who I am? I'm Jeremy Lin. I get fouled, you call it. And he was being very mentally weak because he was letting me as a referee really affect his game. He had no control over what I called and what I didn't call. And he just really took him out of his game and just started pouting and not playing the next play, just stopped playing. And that's when it got really ugly.
提到他第一次遇见林书豪，其实是在篮球10岁的时候，在一个篮球营。那时候呢，当然孩子并不多，所以教练就担任教练的同时又是裁判。那在一次的比赛当中，林书豪这个非常优秀又很会打球，林书豪不小心被犯规了。但是呢，他发现教练竟然没有吹。那小林书豪当然觉得怎么可以这样子，而且我不断的被犯规，你总该吹一次吧？所以呢，他就跟教练起了这样子口角的冲突哦。那么教练其实那时候就是告诉林书豪，你必须在球场上面的时候，你必须要让你的脑袋冷静，你要坚持你的意志，你不能让球场上任何变化，甚至是不如意的变化影响到你在球场上面情绪的表现。那这是教练提供一小段他跟林书豪刚开始相处的时候小故事。
So obviously my job as a coach is to develop my players mentally and make them strong. And so this was very upsetting. And I know it seems like I'm a nice guy, but I can be very mean and angry. So I yelled at him, and I screamed at him, and I embarrassed him in front of everybody. And he went running out of the gym crying.
OK， 当然教练他认为，身为一个教练，他必须要训练这个球员在球场上坚强的意志，所以呢，他就跟林书豪大吼大叫很用，然后甚至让他在其他球员面前难堪。那这时候林书豪当然自尊心没有办法接受，所以就哭着跑出球场，跑出体育馆。
So then he went home to his mother and he said, Mommy, I hate him. And I'm never going to play basketball for him. I don't care. He's mean. So the next 3 years, he didn't come to my camp. I never saw him. I never talked to him. And not only that, but there's 2 high schools in Palo Alto. And his brother, the Lin family lived in the other school's district. And his brother played on our rival on the other school's team. And so Jeremy was doing the book. He was the scorekeeper for the enemy.
OK， 那当然就是说，小林书豪跑回家就跟妈妈告状，说这教练头发不要再跟他一起打球了。那在当然之后的3年，教练就没有再看到林书豪了。那另外一段故事就是说，那时候林书豪他们住的那个学区哦，其实并不是靠近林书豪他真正读的泡蛙河，是另外一间泡蛙河对手学校。而那时候呢，林书豪的哥哥在那边打球，而林书豪呢就是当那时候的基本员，会他们那个对手他是一队。
So I just figured, okay, I'm gonna have to coach against Jeremy for the next 4 years. But then the coach at the other school, not very smart. He didn't play the older brother, Josh. He didn't put him in the games. Lucky for me, the Lins hated him more than they hated me. So Jeremy came to my school.
OK， 那再来就是说，更曲折的事情发生，就是说，林书豪他跟他打的那个球队，他后来呢，那个球队教练并没有把他放在球员这次名单之上，所以呢，林书豪这个是我另外补充，林书豪妈妈就把他们家的孩子带到了高阿福学校里
learned my lesson and I never yelled at him again. But anyways, to answer your question, so now we're very close. We talk all the time. When he, basically now, like when he was at Harvard, he and I text a lot. So what I would do is, when a game started on TV, I would start a text at the beginning of the game, and then keep the text open throughout the whole game. And so when the game ended, I'd push send, and he'd have a 10-page text on just my thoughts on his play, and what he did well, what he could have done better. And so, we've had that, player-coach relationship, obviously, for a long time. But we're very close. There's a lot of trust. When he finished Harvard and was looking for an agent, basically, I went to Indianapolis and interviewed agents for him to let him know, in my opinion, who would be a good agent for him. When he was, thought he was going to get drafted, I went to their house and watched the draft with him and went through that. So we're very close, and yeah, so maybe that answers your question.
你说从高中的时候是如何领导队友，然后他跟队友相处的怎么样？
That's a very good question. He played with a group of guys that were very close, had a lot of respect for each other, very mature group that had grown up together, and Jeremy, he's such a humble person and such a modest person that even though he got a lot of accolades and his name was in the paper, he always handled it very well. His teammates always appreciated that. So there was a ton of respect for him. But at the same time, his teammates are, he happened to have a group of very, very impressive young men. I mean, very high integrity. So it wasn't like it was just Jeremy and then his teammates. As far as character and integrity, all of the teammates, they're very impressive people. They're doing very well in life right now. So it was a very equal team as far as that goes.
那么，专业辅导其实您说我在高中的时候就有一群非常好的朋友，而这群朋友当中呢，其实他每个人的品格、他们正直、非常 nice， 都跟其实是跟林书豪一般这样子的一个非常优秀跟好的青年在开启打球。
这个话我想问一下说，如果说一般田径选手或是说像他们体育人才的话，他们只是呢看他们的体能训练在高中就开始训练吗？然后如果说是的话，那他们一般如果像黄种跟白种跟黑不同种族，他们基因里面黄种是比较敏感的。那这样的话会在像这个团体里面，你有特别针对他的身体状况，会有特别他们的饮食吗？那如果都没有的话，他们进入到 NBA 里面，他们如果是经营他们这块成为球员，我所知道的是，林书豪现在是有2位行销的专业在旁边，他可能要随时要做好他自己的人际关系方面。另外一个，他还有一个随身的体能教练。那为什么他最近上面是说他不会特别去训练他的心肺功能部分，所以他不会特别去训练他的二头肌？是因为他还有想要再长高吗？请问你的问题是什么问题？体能训练就是他高中部分，他们的选手会不会在这方面就是让体能训练来做加强？那有的话，他们饮食跟体适能方面的训练是怎么样子？
No difference.
好在这个过程里面，在你的印象中，他有没有沮丧的时候、upset 的时候？那在这个过程里面，你怎么在燃起他的斗志？比如像我身为一个母亲，如果我的孩子在球队沮丧，我怎么让他有一个像今天的主题一样，所谓积极的环境，在改变他，在燃起他的斗志，专注他现在情况。
Didn't have too many frustrations until he got to the NBA. I mean, did well in high school, did very well in college. There weren't a lot of frustrations. Then in the NBA, I mean, basically my main conversation with him in the NBA was, this is not a frustrating time. Going from the Warriors to the Rockets, that's not hardship. Going from the Warriors to Turkey, or the Warriors to Belgium, or the Diepenbrock, that would be hardship. So there's a lot of players in the NBA that have played 5 years overseas, 6 years overseas, and have been, fighting for many years to try. I reminded Jeremy that, hey, Jeremy, you're still doing pretty well here. Let's keep things in perspective. But because that's why he is where he is, because his expectations are so high. He's like, I don't like the D-League. I have to share my hotel room. That's pretty funny.
刚刚说到，其实林书豪是真正面临到挫折、沮丧的时候，其实在 NBA 的时候。那么这一段期间呢，其实当然林书豪会认为说，他从金州勇士队到休斯顿火箭队，之后他这一些历程，他觉得非常沮丧。但其实教练是鼓励他其实很多球员甚至是打了5、6年，都还在海外打篮球的。所以他其实是鼓励林书豪说，你已经很不错了，就继续的往一个正向的方式去看待这样子的一个状态。
But I also will say that experience with my relationship with him, that's really where his Christian faith was very, very important to him and very instrumental, because I know that when he was very frustrated, he just always would say, well, God has a plan for me, and if this is what the plan is, if this is where I'm supposed to go, this is what I got to do. So I know that his Christian faith really helped him deal with it.
另外补充，其实就是当然，除了教练之外，还有一个很大的力量支持林书豪，就是他的信仰。那当他面临到困难的时候，其实他会想的是说，这是上帝引我到这边的，也许这就是我要经历的过程。于是呢，他会用比较正向的方式去度过，帮助他走过这样的难关。
我们最后一个问题好不好？然后怎么去？我先问一下哈，有在网上问问题还没有拿出的举手，有在网络上问问题还没有拿出的，好，那你拿直接问问题。好，那就你。
我刚刚合照了嘛，他花30分车一定要在车上才。
我想知道就是美国的高中篮球队
Well, it's different at every school. I mean, there's very differing levels of schools. There's very small schools with not very good players, and there's big schools, and Catholic schools with very good players. So it's very, very different in different schools. But basically, I would say in most schools, if you're a freshman player and you play hard and you're coachable, you're going to have a chance to play freshman basketball. Most schools keep most freshmen. And then from there, it's just basically doing what the coach asks, working on your game, and being as coachable as possible. And then you'll have a chance to play as a sophomore, play as a junior, and that, I mean, it's my experience that, yes, there's been a lot of players over the years that played as freshmen and didn't play varsity, but it wasn't because they worked every day on the game and just weren't good enough. My experience, they just didn't love the game and didn't play very much, and that's why they weren't good enough for varsity. Those players that really love the game and want to work on it always got better and were able to play varsity.
那么其实在美国呢，在高中，当然每个高中状况不一样。那么普遍来说呢，所有的新生他们在第一年的时候都可以打这样子所谓新生队。那么接下来的第二年要进入到校队的时候，以教练的经验来看，其实是要看你自己对于篮球的喜好，才能不能。当然对你的篮球喜好以及你个人的努力，让你能够进入到篮球校队。那还有就是说，当然是大一的新生，你必须要遵从教练的指导，让你能够一步一步的增进你的能力，进入到校队。
One other answer to that is, as a player, you know what you can do and what you can't do. And again, those players that really want to get better have the ability and the drive and the ambition to work on things that they can't do and get better. And it's really that simple. Those people that work on their weaknesses get better. It's not like there's a billion basketball skills. There's only a handful of skills that you have to be able to do. You put in the time on those skills, you get better.
那么再来就是说，当然每个人都有你自己篮球技巧上面的优势跟劣势，长处跟短处。那么一个好的篮球员，甚至是一个可以日积月异的篮球员，其实就是说你可以在你自己的弱点上面不断去加强跟努力，也让你自己越来越越来越好。
很抱歉，因为时间的关系，今天没有办法让大家上场。那我们只好把这样的期待放在希望教练做。那我们等一下进行的活动是这样，我们会请记者先在那边给大家做个片的专访。那大家我们开始拍合照，所以我们会以这个位置做这个合照。那大家可以帮我们下来做一下。
And you can do it by email if you have any questions.